So I think we're seeing a trend today with client-driven development. So I'll take a few moments to just talk through what we do as a company. So I'm Tommy from Hudl, and we're a sports company based in the US. We have offices in Europe, Asia, and Australia as well. So we build video and analysis tools for competitive, elite, and amateur, both individual and team sports. And we've now been using GraphQL since 2015. Last time I checked, last week, we had around 300 types across 6 different services, and adding up to around 1,100 fields, I think. Not that says everything, but I think that's more important than what we do. So we cover big international sports like, well, American football is debatable, but basketball, rugby, hockey, lacrosse, and soccer, aka real international football. So some of our users include the English Premier League and the Championship, national teams, the All Blacks, for those of you who are into rugby, and the NBA. And especially in the elite space that I'm going to talk to you about today, we've traditionally seen the use of thick clients in an offline environment that treat their data very confidentially. The video analysis that they gather from the games is essentially their competitive edge to perform better and really up their game. And they need to access that video analysis and illustrations and conversations around that analysis, both before the game, during training sessions, during the game, and during the halftime, in the locker room, on the pitch even, and after the game. And now we're seeing more and more need for that real-time aspect of that. So during the game, sharing it, during halftime, coach on the sideline, medical personnel is using it to evaluate the risk of concussion and so on. And one exciting news, some exciting news that came through last year was that the NBA allowed for use of real-time video on the bench, and we're actually seeing some videos from that this season. And this is where GraphQL comes in. So we have a typical setup where there's a locker room where we have one or more analysts. They sit typically with 1 or 2 laptops, tagging the game, very heads down in the bubble. So by tagging, I mean they kind of identify moments during the game, so there can be an offensive move, a defensive move, and adding attributed information to those moments. And on the bench, you obviously have the coach, so the head coach and the assistant coach, medical staff, and also the players as well. Those of us who have been benched. And they're all interested in consuming that data as soon as possible. And the coach would typically also reach out to the analysts about what kind of video they want to show during a halftime review, for instance, or during a timeout. So these devices, the laptops in the locker room, the laptop and the tablets on the court side, are forming a mesh network. It's kind of closed-down network. And for the NBA, for instance, that has to be hardwired. But what we're kind of building out now is this universal discovery component, which is taking care of, as the name might suggest, automatic discovery of all these other devices and their capabilities. So that could be, for instance, that a tablet on the bench automatically discovers the laptop in the locker room and its capability of sharing tagging information that the analyst is producing during the game. So another thing that this universal discovery component is taking care of is the facilitation of connectivity. So that could be that you're not on a network. Say that you're on a coach or on a train on the way back from a game, and you're sitting next to your head coach or co-player, and you want to share video or share some of those moments during the game and really start the analysis straight away, right? So then you could use something like Bluetooth onshore connectivity to set up a Wi-Fi direct between these devices and still communicate on the go. So a typical app architecture that we see in GraphQL is having this GraphQL client making requests to a server somewhere, the very client-server architecture, and you're getting a response back. That doesn't quite cut it in this case. First of all, since we have a mesh network, the client application would then have to take care of the state of like what devices are available, what capabilities do they have. It's introducing a lot of complexity to the client itself. And since we want to use this not only for our internal ecosystem and our own apps and devices, we also want to kind of spread this out as a third-party API. So say that a third-party vendor might want to hook in their camera feed into our system or provide some data as a supplement to our system. They want to interface with this as well. So what we're doing instead is that we have a local GraphQL engine running in the client app as well. This will evolve a bit as we go along here. We're just taking care of all this communication and facilitating connectivity. And that's very much a reactive setup as well. So it will essentially use subscriptions to live queries to communicate with any other stakeholders in that environment. Another benefit of that is obviously that this will decouple and mesh communication from the client. And not to mention that your device can also be a publisher to the system. 1 minute more, so I'm running out here, sorry. So this another thing with this engine here, you can see that we get a nicely separated component where all the bonjour pan communication logic is separated out, and any kind of capabilities plug into that engine and publishes capabilities. And that state that you also get from other devices will then kind of replicate it into our own device. So similar to the Internet of Things, for instance, if you're familiar with that, and device shadowing. And lastly, then it also allows us to pull out those capability components and let them self-register with our library. So at the end of the day, the Hudl Universal Discovery component is actually the engine and the connectivity parts of it, and the local state that's replicated across devices. And that's it.